Nothing can come before time began. And yet, here it is. I want to open with that contradiction on purpose, because I'm not going to let it slide by unexamined, the way a lot of headlines do. Before is a time word. You need time to even use the concept of before. So, strictly speaking, nothing at all can exist before time itself started. That's not poetic license, that's just logic eating its own tail. So why does a phrase like that keep showing up around this discovery? Because what James Webb found sits so close to the actual beginning of everything that the difference between right after the start and before the start stops feeling meaningful to your gut, even though technically it's not the same thing at all. And I think chasing down exactly why that confusion happens is worth your time. Let's take apart the first assumption everybody carries around, because it's blocking the real story. We think of the early universe as basically too dark to see anything. Assume that if you point a telescope back far enough, you just hit a wall of black, nothing to look at. But that's not quite it either. For hundreds of millions of years after the Big Bang, the universe was filled with a thick fog of neutral hydrogen gas, genuinely opaque to light, meaning even if something out there was shining, its light couldn't travel freely through that fog to reach us. Astronomers actually call this stretch of cosmic history the Dark Ages, and it's a fitting name. So finding a bright, confirmed galaxy from deep inside that foggy era isn't just impressively early. It's like finding a lit candle in a room that, according to the physics, shouldn't have let any of that light through yet. Now, how do we even know how far back we're looking? This is where I want to slow down, because the mechanism here is genuinely elegant. As the universe expands, light traveling toward us gets stretched out, shifted toward the red end of the spectrum, the same basic effect as a siren changing pitch as it moves away from you, except here it's happening to light instead of sound, over cosmic distances instead of a street corner. And the amount of that stretching, called redshift, tells you almost exactly how long the light's been traveling, which tells you how young the universe was when that light first left its source. Using this, Webb confirmed a galaxy called JWST-GS-Z13-1 at a redshift of about 13, meaning we're looking at it as it existed roughly 330 million years after the Big Bang. Out of a universe that's now 13.8 billion years old. That's not a rounding error. That's a few percent of all of cosmic history total. Here's the part that actually stopped the research teams cold, though. This galaxy shows bright hydrogen emission, something called Lyman alpha emission, a very specific, energetic kind of ultraviolet light hydrogen atoms give off under the right conditions. Before and during the era of reionization, that immense fog of neutral hydrogen surrounding early galaxies blocked exactly this kind of energetic light from escaping, like colored glass filtering out certain wavelengths and letting others through. So this particular kind of light, from something existing this early, shouldn't have had a clear path out yet. The fog should still have been thick enough to swallow it. And yet it's here, confirmed, measured. Something was clearing the fog around this specific galaxy faster than the standard timeline says it should have been able to. And that sets up a paradox I find genuinely strange the more I think about it. You'd expect the very first galaxies in cosmic history to look like modest beginnings, small, faint, barely formed trumps of stars, still figuring out how to exist. Instead, some of these extremely early galaxies Webb has found look shockingly structured and luminous for their age. Bright enough, clear enough, mature enough in how their light behaves, that they resemble objects which should have needed far more time to build themselves up. It's like opening the first page of a book expecting a simple introduction, and instead finding a fully developed plot twist sitting right there on page 1. The earliest chapter of the story is reading like a much later chapter accidentally got mixed in. So what's actually clearing that fog fast enough to let this happen? Here's where I want to be honest with you, because there isn't one clean, agreed-upon answer. Some researchers propose that early star formation was simply more efficient than our standard models predict, stars forming faster, burning brighter, doing the fog-clearing work ahead of the expected schedule. Others focus on the earliest generations of massive stars specifically, proposing they pumped out enough radiation to punch through the surrounding gas earlier than anyone assumed possible. This is a live, ongoing scientific debate, not a settled mechanism with a textbook answer sitting at the back of the book. I want to be upfront about that instead of picking one explanation and presenting it to you like it's already been proven. Let's circle back to that title, though, because I don't want to let myself off the hook here. Before time began isn't literally true, and I said that at the start on purpose. Nothing observed can predate the actual beginning of time itself, full stop. That would collapse the whole logical structure that time and before even depend on. But here's the honest reason the phrase keeps attaching itself to discoveries like this one. We're looking at light from roughly 330 million years after the Big Bang, out of a universe that's now 13.8 billion years old. That means this galaxy existed within the first 2 or 3% of all cosmic history that has ever happened. It's not before time began. But it's close enough to the actual starting gun that human intuition genuinely struggles to hold the difference in its head. We're wired to think in terms of early and late, not in terms of fractions of a percent from an absolute beginning. And this discovery sits right at the edge where that wiring starts to fail us. And there's more we don't know here, which I think is the actually interesting part rather than something to gloss over. We don't know for certain how many more galaxies like this one exist, tucked inside that same fog-clearing window. We don't have a fully settled explanation for how reionization proceeded unevenly enough to let some pockets of early light through faster than others. And we genuinely don't know whether finding galaxies this mature, this early, means our whole standard model of galaxy formation needs real adjusting or just needs some fine-tuning around the edges. Some scientists are even asking bigger questions because of findings like this, whether alternative ideas about gravity or the behavior of dark matter or evolving dark energy models might need a second look. That's not me being dramatic. That's where some working physicists have actually taken this. Here's where I want to widen this out, though, because I think there's something underneath all the technical detail that matters more than the technical detail itself. Every atom in you, every single one, traces back eventually to processes that got started in an era like this one. The earliest stars, the earliest galaxies, forging the raw elements that would, billions of years later, become planets, oceans, and eventually something capable of building a telescope precise enough to look back across nearly the entire span of cosmic history and catch its own origin story still being written. This isn't just a distant curiosity happening to some other part of the universe that has nothing to do with you. This is the opening page of the book you happen to be a sentence in. So I'm not going to close this with something tidy because I don't think this deserves tidy. The closer we look toward the actual start of everything, the less subtle that start turns out to be. Light escaping before it should have, structure appearing before it should have, mystery deepening in exactly the place we expected clarity to finally show up. The beginning of time isn't a closed door that we've now fully swung open with our fancy new telescope. It's a door we've only just barely cracked, and something unexpected is already leaking out through that gap, arriving at our instruments right now, having traveled for over 13 billion years, just to tell us that the story starts stranger than we thought.